Recently, a beauty product, or rather, if we say a brand that runs that beauty product, it dropped the beautiful word called fair from its name and it replaced it with glow. Now, something like this, the only thing it will change is that the company will hope that it does not get any backlash. Nothing else will change. Not our perspective on beauty, neither our need to feel more beautiful or look more beautiful. Sadly, another campaign from another iconic beauty brand, it just urged women to walk through two doors. One door said beautiful, and the other door said average. Only one woman had the confidence to walk through beautiful. Everybody else chose average. So, under these circumstances, if something like a cosmetic enhancement or a surgery can give that confidence, is it really wrong to go in for it? Do we really need to sit and judge a woman who chooses to change the way she looks, whether it's her nose, whether your cheekbones, maybe liposuction? So then, if the International Society of Aesthetics Plastic Surgeries survey is to be believed, it says more than 9,35,487 cosmetic enhancements, whether they were surgeries or non-invasive procedures, were done in India alone. This is in 2016. Please add a growth rate of 4% to each passing year. In fact, they did predict that within the next decade, it will rise by 50%. Now the question is, are these procedures addictive, costly, damaging to health, and also a psychological disorder in severe cases? Time to find out. Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of Ketchup Mom's Let's Talk. Today we are going to talk about cosmetic surgery, its do's and don'ts.
And today we have with us Dr. Ipsa, consultant dermatologist, providing services at Premium Aesthetic and Dermatology clinics in Ahmedabad. She looks forward to adopting the emerging technologies in her practice in the best possible way, while maintaining a fine balance of clinical and cosmetic dermatology. And we have Dr. Ankit Jain, consultant plastic surgeon at SkinZest and Medanta and the Medicity, Gurgaon. His special interest is in facial reconstructive procedures along with microvascular surgeries. He specializes in cosmetic reconstructive maxillofacial and burn surgeries. And we have Dr. Nupur Jain, MD Dermatology, and the founder of SkinZest Gurgaon, and is one of the leading and the most popular dermatologists and cosmetologists for Delhi NCR. She is credited with bringing aesthetic dermatology, eyebrow microblading, various injectables for face sculpting, anti-aging procedures, laser and hair loss therapies to Gurgaon. Welcome, doctors. Thank you for giving us this valuable time. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, doctors. So let's start with our question flow. My question is to Dr. Ipsa. Actually, plastic surgery is actually derived from the Greek word called plastikos, which actually means a mold to form. So what do you think, is there any difference between plastic surgery and cosmetic surgery? How are they different?
Right. So basically, cosmetic surgery is a part of plastic surgery. But another very important part of plastic surgery is reconstructive surgery also. So when I talk about cosmetic surgeries are usually to enhance a person's appearance, right? So making it more youthful, making sure the face is symmetrical and it's properly proportionate, right? And cosmetic surgeries are usually planned surgeries. They are never, say, an emergency or something like that. Examples of cosmetic surgeries are Botox, fillers, facelift, brow lift, laser resurfacing, lip corner lift, neck lift. So these are all examples of cosmetic surgeries. Another very important part of plastic surgery, which I mentioned, was reconstructive surgery. So reconstructive surgery is any surgery which repairs a defect, so a defect that is caused either by birth, by trauma, by burns, or by any disease like cancer, right? So sometimes reconstructive surgeries tend to be emergency cases, like say, for example, a surgery done after burns. So you have to be like within a particular frame of time to actually perform the surgery for burns. And examples of reconstructive surgeries will be, say, after post-mastectomy because of breast cancer, when you reconstruct a breast. So that is kind of a reconstructive surgery. So now also in India, people are less aware of whom to go to for different kinds of surgeries. So dermatologists can perform cosmetic surgeries, whereas plastic surgeons can perform both cosmetic as well as reconstructive surgeries.
So, as you're talking about cosmetic surgery today, and we were doing some research, of course, for this program. And
Right.
interestingly, it said that all the Brazilian bodies, that we aspire to have, and that, we always see on the beaches there. So most of them are always corrected. And the most popular, thing that they go in for is liposuction, right? And back in US, of course, which is the top country when it comes to any cosmetic enhancement or surgery, apparently breast augmentation is the biggest thing there. What about India? What are the top 5 procedures which are really very popular here, Dr. Ankit?
So, see, there would be surgical procedures and there would be non-surgical procedures. So in non-surgical procedures, Botox, fillers, then PRP, these are quite famous. And as far as non-surgical procedures are concerned, rhinoplasty, that is the nose correction. Then breast surgeries, yes, but mostly in India we do breast reduction rather than augmentation. So that is more common. Reduction of breast and getting it tighter, that is more common. Breast augmentation is less common. And other than that, abdominoplasty, that is tummy tuck. So these are the few surgical which are famous.
I was also reading that in South Korea, China, and Japan, another surgery which is very popular is the surgery to uplift your eyelid.
Yeah,
because they need a more Western look. So in India, we don't go in for something like that?
Most of the people in India would go in for such kind of surgeries if they have sagging eyelids. Changing the look would not be the primary aim of getting the surgery done.
It would be more tightening of the skin.
Yeah, more tightening.
Okay. Dr. Nupur, I wanted to ask this question. This is actually in my mind. Does all the procedure, is it important to go under the knife or any particular these surgical equipments?
So, my specialty is dermatology. So I go for the non-surgical procedures mostly. As husband and wife, we keep having this argument with each other when he'll say that it's better to go for surgical option rather than the non-surgical option. But these days, even the non-surgical options give just, as good results as the surgical ones. Although the longevity is definitely more with the surgical options. But results can be achieved even with the non-surgical option. So it's not necessary that you have to go under the knife to get for every procedure.
The desired, but yeah, sculpting and of course for that cosmetic surgeries are there.
Yeah.
Another thing is that right now in India, the airport look is in such vogue. I don't know if the celebrities only get nightmares about it, because if you go on Instagram and Snapchat, Facebook, you have ordinary, common people who don't want to walk out of that airport looking what they naturally would after 18-hour flight, right? They all want to look out looking absolutely clickable. So I understand that right now the pressure to look good, to look fashionable all the time is really high, right? But in certain, places, would you say that it could also be a cognitive behavioral disorder, like we call body dysmorphic disorder? So Dr. Ipsa, that disorder is also a reality, right?
Yes, of course, it is a reality. But in my experience, the chunk of patient with a psychological component to this are comparatively less than people who actually have genuine concerns. And how each doctor reacts to such patients is also very different, right? So, for example, because people who have a body dysmorphic disorders will be the people who will never be satisfied with whatsoever treatments they do, right? So in such cases, it is always a doctor's responsibility to do as much counseling as they can, give them a visual depiction of what their results are going to be, and make sure that such patients have realistic expectations so that they are not disappointed in future. I have many patients, there is this whole thing of making you white. There are many patients which come and tell me, I want to become white, So, I mean, of course, if there is tanning, there is pigmentation, and that sort of a genuine problem, we understand. But people who want to become white, so I usually spend quite some time to counsel them and give them realistic expectations.
But you really can't blame these people, because if you think about it, I was just reading the other day that the star of the hit movie Dirty Dancing, she went in to get a nose job done after she had become such a big rage, and for whatever reason, the surgery did not go that well. And I remember that she had given this, statement that said, I was wheeled in a star and I came out anonymous, because nobody could even, kind of recognize me. So if somebody who's considered beautiful by lakhs of people, who's seen, unprecedented kind of success, and she still thinks that she's not beautiful, because I read an entire interview about her where she said, my daughter asked me, why did you go in for it? And it took me a lot of time to kind of explain to her that I did not feel beautiful, So when something like that happens with a celebrity who you think has it all, then common people like, us, they obviously will always feel that I want to be fairer, thinner, younger, because that is one place where we always, we don't know what to do. Yeah, beyond
Right.
eating, or I don't know, beyond exercising maybe.
Charu, if I may add, for these patients, first of all, you need to recognize these patients. There are certain red flag signs. As soon as a patient comes, we have, certain signs with which we can come to know that this person is actually suffering from this disorder. And as soon as this disorder is recognized, it is important you, as a doctor, we have to counsel, and we also have to refer them to the right counselor to help them get over that, because you can keep doing endless number of procedures for them, but they'll never be satisfied. So it is more important to take care of the psychological component here than the cosmetic component.
True.
But actually, if you see these celebrities vouch for it, what God hasn't given them, these doctors and these surgeons can always give them, or give us for that matter. So, like, of course, it will affect psychologically everyone here. So, like, we have these treatments like Botox, fillers, PRPs, and it was, again, earlier it was just a popular in the rich level, or if you say that level, celebrity level. Now it's a fad in middle class also. So what do you think, like, how affordable it is to such middle class people can afford these kind of surgeries, or just because of it's a fad, the people are following it blindly?
No, actually,
I'm sure it's taking a hole in their pockets.
So previously, yes, definitely. Only the rich people, they were more concerned about it. They had the money to, spend. That was the notion earlier. Now, even the middle class people have started spending money. They've started actually thinking about the bodies. They actually want to look better. So yes, apart from people who are suffering from body dysmorphic disorder, these people also, everyone has a right to look better. So I would say that, if somebody comes with unrealistic expectation, I would not treat. I would straight away say no. But if you have realistic expectations, if you feel I have a hump on my nose, which I don't find good, yes, that is a correction that should be done. And a lot of people in the middle class also are actually aware of it. And all these procedures which are being done are pretty affordable nowadays. Earlier, they were more expensive because less number of doctors were doing it. Now, a lot of people are doing it, and a lot of good doctors are doing it, and we have good results. So, and they've become very affordable.
So one does not have to sell the kidney to look younger.
Not at all. Not anymore.
No, you might have to sell your kidney to buy an iPhone.
Oh yeah, that you have to. The minute the latest version comes, you have to do that for sure. But as Shiny just said, you know, we've realized a lot of, I would say even lower middle class, you know, people, they are feeling the pressure to look more presentable and more pretty because maybe they're in a glamorous, you know, career. They need to be the face of their company, and they just feel that if they have that perfect Aryan features, they would probably do better. So that is something that, you know, I don't think we can judge it. Maybe that society always creates that kind of need. So if anyone, maybe the society is to be blamed for that. But I do find disturbing the trend that probably your clients are getting younger. You know, earlier we were talking about women who were approaching 40s, they had entered their 50s, they suddenly did not like the crow lines, the smiles, or they didn't like the frown lines, or, you know, their smile was drooping. But now I've realized that there's something called Snapchat dystopia. And, you know, earlier people wanted to look as beautiful as the celebrity, but now they want to look like their own Snapchat version. So whether it is 10 shades fairer or whether it is having larger eyes and a better cheekbone. So are you getting those kind of customers? Do you find this trend disturbing?
So yeah, definitely more and more younger people are getting more conscious, and they are coming to the clinic with, you know, with various procedures that they want to get into. But as Dr. Ankit said, we have to set realistic expectations, and we have to see whether, I mean, what I feel is most important is whatever procedure they're going in for, that should help in building their own self-confidence rather than getting it done so that they get more number of likes, or, you know, they get more number of comments, because that's an endless cycle. If you get 100 likes, you want 500. Once you have 500, you want, you know, 1,000 or 100,000. So that is something that needs to be taken care of. You know, the parents, the society, the teachers, everyone has a role to play in that. But as far as, you know, there are certain features which they are not, which because of which they are feeling underconfident, because of which, you know, they are not able to speak to their friends or speak to other people. Those definitely can be, if they can be corrected, then they should go in for it.
Yeah, but fair enough. But, you know, the minute you start playing with your natural skin, when you are still in your 20s, I'm sure it does have some kind of an impact, right? And it would be a treatment that then you have to keep going back to time and again.
Charul, it totally depends on what treatment that you're talking about. Many of the treatments, like even if we talk about like chemical peels or even lasers, they basically just work at the level of the superficial layers of the skin, where they're just removing the dead skin layer and, you know, stimulating the underlying cell. That's it. They are not steroids which are making your skin addicted to it, or they are not, you know, something which is going to harm you in the long run. So, I mean, of course, there are other treatments also, but if you're talking about the basic treatments, then I mean, it's not that, you know, the skin gets addicted to it, or it causes any harm if we start at a younger age.
Is it like a parlor visits? We visit often like to get a pedicure or manicure done, or probably that facials done. So is it similar to those kind of a thing? We have to remove the dead skins, or scrubbing is important for your skin.
So I would say it's more like how you take care of your physical fitness with going to the gym or exercising. That's like fitness for your skin.
So yeah, these peels and everything, does it act like that? So it's not really getting into your system, or you're not taking some.
No, not at all.
So
as doctors, it is our responsibility to understand what the person actually needs, and whether he needs it or not, that has to be made sure.
Yeah.
We have to tell him, we have to explain to him that these procedures, if they're not very harmful, yes, you can always get it done. But If you feel, if a person might end up harming himself, then no, we'll say no.
But okay, do kids who are under 18, do they need some kind of permission from their guardians or parents to get some treatments done?
Definitely. Under 18 years.
Yeah.
They would require that.
Consent, and as we need the consent.
Consent has to
Under
be
18 cannot
from
give a consent.
Okay, okay. But you know, whatever, we can't run away from the fact that, for example, if today, you know, brides also, they don't look even 1% of what they actually are on the day of the wedding. You know, you literally feel like you married somebody else and next morning you got up with somebody else completely. And the same thing, I think a disbalance is something that even this is creating in terms of youngsters, what they look in real and what they look in real, right? And then suddenly to run to achieve that look, I'm sure there's a lot of peer pressure. Do you get any specific, you know, queries that I want to look like Aishwarya Rai, or please change my bone structure so that I can look like Deepika Padukone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dr. Ipsa would want to take this question. She would agree with me that, we do get a lot of similar clients. You know, they'll come with those particular shape of the lips, that this is the shape I want exactly. And, you know, then they tell us that you have to inject the filler so that I get this, you know, my upper lip looks like this. And even
pouted and I want this kind of a pout. I wanted this kind of a smile.
Yeah, even for microblading eyebrows, like people with very sparse eyebrows will come with Deepika Padukone type eyebrows and tell, okay, I want this eyebrows. So yeah, people get many questions like that.
So do you think, is there any gap between the realism and this fakeness?
Of course, there is a gap. I mean, but then, you know, you cannot completely kind of try and oppose the clients at one go. So, I mean, counseling is the only tool that we have. So I had this one patient who was like, who belonged to a very lower middle class, and he already had a lot of EMIs, but he bought one phone just because it had a filter which made him look fairer. So I don't know, it was an Oppo phone or something like that, but just because it had that filter, he got that phone on another EMI. So all these events do scare us also as doctors, but then of course it is our responsibility to give them realistic expectations.
Yeah, now the procedures are done, like surgeries are done. So, Dr. Ipsa, what do you think, like, these post-surgical care is, how like difficult it is to carry in terms of like cosmetic procedures or in cosmetic surgeries? So are they more difficult? Okay, surgeries are fine, surgeries are done, procedures are done. What about the post this care?
Right. So see, in each, I mean, the post-surgical care for each procedure is different. So my first advice will be, follow your doctor's instructions to the T, right? One very important thing which I would like to share here is, which happens a lot many times in my clinic, is that, you know, sometimes there is a gap between, say, a doctor's communication or a patient's, what the patient perceives the information, but what happens is the patient does not know how much downtime the particular procedure is going to have. Right, so most of the cosmetic procedures, apart from say lasers or Botox, they do have certain amount of downtime. Right, it can vary from say 24 hours to a week or so. But if the patient does not know about this, and the patient has a very important say meeting or a function on the very next day to the procedure, so that usually kind of overwhelms the patient, right? So in my initial days, this used to happen. Like I used to tell the patient, you know, that it's going to take say 2 or 3 days, but then sometimes in some patients, it takes a longer time for the skin to become normal. So this is a very important part for the patient to know that when the skin is going to be normal, so that the patient can plan the procedure in that way. Apart from that, the post-surgical care will include certain medications, certain ointments for moisturizing. Most of the procedures that are done on the surface will require strict sun protection. I mean, surface in the sense that laser ablation and microderma abrasion, derma rollers, all these procedures require strict sun protection. Apart from that, the general icing to reduce swelling, proper hydration, drinking lots of water, avoiding heavy exercise. All these points are important for the post-surgical care.
In terms of like if they're sweating, is it?
Yeah, sweat. Yeah. Also in Botox, no massaging your face. You can wash your face, but very gently. So all these instructions are important.
Okay. In terms of cosmetic surgery, Dr. Ankit, if you want to take this.
Most of the cosmetic surgeries, there is a downtime of about a week. If you talk about rhinoplasty, that is the nose job, tummy tuck. So we always advise the patient not to do any excessive exercises during this time. And obviously, there would be some, bandages over the operated area. So we just have to take care of those things. But after a week, then everything gets back to normal.
And just even in the cosmetic surgeries, like they say now, it takes about a year to heal up and to get back everything on the shape.
There might be some swelling after surgery. That swelling would go decrease by 90% in the initial 1 or 2 weeks, and thereafter the actual result actually would come at about 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. Okay. So that last 10%, which actually makes a lot of difference, it comes in the last after 2 weeks.
Okay, we have come across this thing. This guy is one of somebody got a nose job done. So it took him good an year to get in place because post care was so much. Because surgery is done, the post care is like really difficult. So what do you have to say on this?
See, actually, these complications are very rare. If I've done 100 surgeries, only 1 or 2 people might experience such a problem. And then, but these are all correctable. So most of the times, these side effects or these complications, they might be a complication actually. Might not be a side effect of the surgery, but it's a complication. So might be there. So the patient is already aware of these things. We always make them aware of these, that they might happen. They might have, like, if you get a jaw surgery done, if we cut open the jaw, we, fix it. So the bone healing time itself is a month. So that is the downtime we have to explain to the patient that this is going to be there for some time. Though all these complications are very rare, might happen, but yes, but all are correctable.
We have come across like few people who have got their like mouth correction done or smile correction done. So they have a difficulty in opening up their mouth and like breathing problems because of the nose plastic surgery or rhinoplasty. So what do you have to say on this? Because does it have any side effects?
Not exactly. There are none. As I just told you that most of these things are temporary. So, if I've done a surgery on the nose, for example, there might be some swelling initially. So that swelling takes some time, and again, depends on the person, his body. So we cannot actually predict how much time one particular person will take. But around the downtime is around a week or so. And that 1 week, he might have some swelling, and because of which he might have difficulty breathing. So, but usually it all subsides. And if it persists, then that's a rare complication.
Okay, that's a rare combination. Okay. If something like that happens, can it be recorrected? Because
yes,
obviously, because your nerves are attached, so many things are there. It's
so
not natural.
In experienced hands, most of the times these doesn't happen. So if a surgery is done, if it is done well, then you might not have any problem.
Correct.
Dr. Ankit, another very interesting marketing strategy that we came across, and a lot of these clinics do it. I'm sure even you have a package like that, which is called the New Mom Makeover Package. Yeah. And the entire correction that is there, it's like unlimited, right? Because it starts from breast upliftment, tummy tuck, stretch mark removal, buttock augmentation. And so are these things that moms come to you because they are feeling less confident about their post-pregnancy body? Or is it something that, they come to you because of the peer pressure?
So actually, this concept of mommy makeover, pregnancy takes a toll on your body. So, there's gradual expansion of your abdomen, And then suddenly, the expansion is gone after you deliver the child. And then during the lactation, the glands in the breast increase. So that leads to, engorgement of the breast, which after the lactation is over, it basically comes, regresses. So there is a lot of sagging. The excess skin that sags, no matter how much exercise you do, you cannot get rid of those, those sagging part of your bodies. So what mommy makeover basically means is to correct those saggy things. So we are we do breast upliftment for the saggy breast, then tummy tuck for the excess fat and the sagging skin over your abdomen, and as well as get rid of the stretch marks, because stretch mark is something which is very difficult to get rid of. So we have to actually remove this part of the skin. And then something which is coming up is, the genital rejuvenation. That is also very important, because again, laxity over there. So these are a few things which are important, and they cannot be corrected by normal exercises and other things. A surgery.
Although some of those procedures do smell of patriarchy also, but that is a thing that we would keep for another episode maybe. To each his own. We are not there to judge anyone. The reason that we are doing this is that something like this is available in the market, and why not know it better, whether it is good, bad, or ugly. But this mom, I understand that as the medical fraternity is trying to aid these women to get their pre-pregnancy body back, and hence the confidence, right? But at the same time, I think just being mother, because pehle jaise bolte the, oh, you're a mother, eat well, do this, do that. That thing is just going away, because now there's so much correction to be done. You rather not pick up that weight that is finally going to, force you down the hill and get the surgeries done. But I'm sure there must be some side effects
of these procedures. Most of the time, there are no side effects. All you have is scars, which are going to be there in your, which will be hidden, will not be visible. So you can wear the kind of clothes you want to wear. And so other than that, there are no side effects. There is only a downtime of about a week or so, because it takes time for you to recover from the surgery. And after that, you are good to go.
Okay. And do you suggest that, do you suggest that something like this should be done, say 9 months from delivery, or it has to be done like pretty quickly?
No, it usually 6 months after delivery.
The mother can be lactating?
Once she finishes lactating.
Once she finishes. Okay.
So like in a mom makeover thing, I'm sure there are like multiple things that need to be there. There's stretch marks, then there is body tucks and like tummy tucks. So are these like in one go, these procedures can be performed? Like multiple procedures can be performed at one time?
It again depends on from case to case. If somebody has a lot of correction, then I would not do those procedures in one go. If there are minor corrections, then all the procedures can be done in one go.
Okay. But say something like a tummy tuck, right? Is it something that is permanent, or is it something that after say 4 or 5 years, you'd have to get it redone?
See, that is a very good question that you asked. See, we would not do a surgery on someone who's not motivated. Motivated as in motivated to exercise. If somebody comes to me for liposuction, for weight reduction, I'll not do it. Because liposuction is not for weight reduction. That is something we have to understand. Liposuction will get rid of the fat, which is called cellulite. That is difficult to get rid with exercises. So liposuction, so we have to select our patients. We have to make them aware that this is not a weight reduction surgery. It is, if you are motivated to do exercise right now, or you have lost weight with exercises and you want to lose another 3-4 kgs, yes, we can help you. But if you're not doing exercises and if you would not continue to take care of a diet, then procedure should not be done for those patients.
So it's not a shortcut to beauty.
You
have to have your reason correct, ethical.
You have to be motivated for everything, actually. Post-operative care also. So because if you start eating, your diet is bad, you eat all kind of pizzas and burgers, you'll get where you were.
Okay. So I'm sure cosmetic surgeries have some, if we shouldn't take it wrong or something, cosmetic surgeries has some element of risk, if I'm not wrong. So we cannot deny the fact that there are cases when it has gone wrong. We have so many celebrities or these movie stars. We have seen them, like their careers have spoiled. Or so, what is the reason behind this, Dr. Ipsa? If you can tell us about.
Right. First of all, I would like to stress when you say the word went wrong, it has a different perception. Like, see, went wrong can be, maybe it is genuinely wrong. Sometimes what happens is the doctor feels that it is fine, but the patient has had not realistic expectation, and the patient feels that no, this has gone wrong. Sometimes the patient is also fine, but the patient's spouse or the patient's relatives, they feel that it has gone wrong. So that is also a very important point to clear. If something has gone wrong, there can be, say, 2 or 3 reasons. One is the doctor's fault in the sense that maybe, say, if you require 10 units of Botox, the person gives 20 units of Botox. So that can result in a very plastic and frozen appearance. Secondly, if a patient has not been very careful, has not been following instructions. For example, after doing a chemical peel, the patient has not taken proper sun protection, then there are chances that, there can be a very bad sunburn. So that is another reason. The third reason is, say, for example, I have seen a patient who has taken a simple medicine as simple as paracetamol. You can develop an allergic reaction to paracetamol also. So it is just luck. There's nothing that you can control. So these are the 3 cases in which the procedure can go wrong.
Take care of this, like, can it be corrected, or what is the procedure behind it?
So most of the procedures can be corrected. For example, if you take, say, I gave you the example of the chemical peel and the burn. So if a patient has a sunburn, then you can use skin lightening creams. You can use skin lightening lasers to decrease the burn mark and decrease the pigmentation. If you are not happy with your filler, then there is another enzyme which you can inject in the same place where the filler has been done. So that will dissolve the filler. So there are definite steps which you can take and most of the cosmetic surgeries, none of them are permanent. So there is not as much risk as people perceive it to be.
But if I may add to what Shiny was saying, lot of celebrities we've seen in India.
Right.
And they did, I think they went in for an enhancement, but they came out looking so different, and they lost their, glamorous appeal, if that's the correct word. And somehow they've not been, because you were saying that they are not permanent. So why would you think that somebody like a celebrity whose entire job is based on that does not go back for a reconstructive thing, or, to deconstruct the entire thing?
See, so say, for example, I don't know if you like it or not, but say Anushka Sharma, right? So Anushka Sharma had that thing. Her lips had become everted, right? Oh. So now she's completely fine. So it depends on what kind of procedure you've got done. See, if you've got done something like Botox or fillers, they can be easily reverted. But if you got from something, and there are celebrities who actually like such lips. That is also probably a reason why they are not going back to the normal thing. So then there are certain, I think Dr. Ankit can also add to this, there are certain plastic surgeries also which can be done for the lips, which cannot be reverted back.
For example, if we get on the breast implants, so sometimes I'm sure there's some goof ups happen. Sometimes it's like sizes issues and everything. So does that, like, doctor take the whole onus for it?
I would see most of the times we would use a sizer before actually, if you're talking about breast augmentation, we would use a sizer. We would give them some idea of how much the final volume is going to be. So, so if the patient, it is always put on the patient. You have to decide how much volume do you want. I would not put a implant just because I like it. I'll have to ask the patient, how much volume do you want? And if that is possible or not. So,
but is it
based on that?
Is it as simple as imagining a haircut on your face? Because when you say volume, say a normal person who's there wouldn't know how
would she look? Or yeah,
certain size. So do you like reconstruct in 3D and show her that, you know, this is how you're going to look post this?
See, coming to that question, you know, what you show, you cannot achieve. So I'm against photoshopping and showing how your nose is going to look or how you're going to look, because you cannot always how the tissue is going to behave on the operating table. You can never actually predict. So showing a photograph or showing those things actually doesn't help, because I have seen in my career till now that whatever Photoshop you show doesn't happen.
You are not
Sometimes
able
it is better, sometimes better, but it is always, you should, as a patient, we should understand what the patient wants. As a doctor, we should understand what the patient wants.
And the patient needs to just trust you.
Yeah, you have to trust actually. And you have to trust the decision that the doctor is taking for you.
And do you have anything for Bell's palsy for people who have probably gone through Bell's palsy and are left with that little deformity on their face?
Pardon me?
Bell's palsy.
I'm sorry, can you...
do you have reconstructive surgery for Bell's palsy patients also? Because some of them do not.
Yes, we have. Again, it depends on the stage and how much time has elapsed since you had the disease. Bell's palsy in most of the cases is recoverable. Like, for example, Rajeshwari, if you know, she was a singer before and the actress. She had Bell's palsy. So she recovered. So Bell's palsy most of the time is recoverable. If somebody has facial paralysis, the reconstructive option will depend on how much time has elapsed since you had the problem. So if it is 1 year, then there are different surgeries. If it is lesser, then there are different surgeries.
And they're mostly successful?
Most of the time, yes. We are able to give almost 90% recovery.
Okay. I don't know. We guys are aware of this Mahima Chaudhary's accident. She got to an accident, and her whole face was like all the glass and everything, the car's glass. So, but she still cannot get that her own beauty and own that same face and the features. So she's still fighting for it. So, what's your take on this? As we say, we can get whatever we want to, what we desire.
See, again, that is something, you know, wherever there is a cut, people think that whatever was shown in Khoon Bhari Maang and Rekha changed from one Rekha to another. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. See, wherever there is a cut, we have to understand there's going to be a scar. As plastic surgeon, it is our duty to put those scars in areas where they're not visible. So we cannot, you know, just get rid of the scars. There are procedures which we can improve the scars. We can make them much better, but we cannot create what was there before. So yes, now the thing about Mahima Chaudhary, she, you know, her problems, we can do surgeries to correct them, but we cannot get back what she had before.
Because yeah.
Okay, what was your opinion on becoming on this entire procedure of trying to look more beautiful, becoming an addiction? Do you feel that it becomes like an endless game for a lot of people? Like somebody who just comes in and gets probably a nose job done and then feels so confident after that, you know, the person wants to come back and then work on the cheekbones, then the jawbone, then maybe the flap, cut it and stitch it. Maybe the buttocks is there next. Does it become like a vicious cycle?
So as you were talking about, you know, the body dysmorphic disorder. So people who have this disorder, they will never be satisfied. You do one procedure for them, they'll be coming back for 3 more. So that is something that needs to be recognized from the beginning itself. That, you know, as I said, it's a red flag sign. But if a person is getting it done for a feature which really bothers them, you know, what I tell my patients when I see them is that just tell me whatever bothers you when you look in the mirror. If that is going to help you feel more confident, if that is going to make you feel much better about yourself, then yes, we will go ahead with it. But if you are getting it done just for the sake of, satisfying other people or getting compliments from other people, then we need to figure out what exactly is it that she's looking for.
Sure. So it's either a disorder or if it's for somebody who's just doing it for compliments, you kind of either talk them out of it or you help them achieve it.
Yeah, it's all about counseling. You really need to sit down and speak with your patients, understand what they really want, and then we need to find a middle ground. We obviously, I mean, I never overpromise my patients. I always underpromise so that they are happy with whatever they get. So I mean, it's more than the procedure itself is the counseling. That's much more important.
Sure. Okay, guys, time to bust some myths. Or if they're truth, then you have to come out and tell us that yes, that's the truth. So let's start with the first one. Ipsa, this one is for you. Discontinuation of these treatments can speed up the aging factor in time. Myth or truth?
This is an absolute myth. See, what happens is when people get such treatments done, the results of these treatments last for at least 6 to 8 months. So people are so much used to that youthful appearance that when actually the effect wears off, they tend to get disappointed. If they were not counseled properly, they tend to get disappointed and they feel it creates an illusion that the aging is happening faster.
But it's not something like if you stop coloring your hair, then suddenly your entire head turns white. So like that, if you stop taking a Botox, it's not like your face
not at all
exaggerate and sag down.
Not at all. In fact, one very important point which many people don't know is, say for example, the lines on the forehead, right? They happen because of subconscious movement. When you are, say, reading, you tend to, move your forehead. So what Botox does is it kind of stops the subconscious movement. So when you take Botox, say for once, twice, you will automatically stop doing that. So then you might not even need Botox for that area.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and okay, with each
No, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, with each treatment, what happens is the number of Botox units you require also decreases, which of course proves that Botox does not stop aging.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, Botox does not, fasten the aging process. It does not do that.
Sure. This one is for Dr. Ankit.
Yeah.
It says Botox, fillers, etc. Are these carcinogenic?
Not at all. Definitely not. See, fillers, which we are using nowadays, is made of hyaluronic acid, which is a normal part of the body. So we are just injecting those things, and what is there in your body is definitely not carcinogenic. As far as Botox is concerned, Botox basically decreases the activity of your muscles. So
but something like, say, a chemical peel, the very word is chemical. So are we saying that we are pumping in some?
Again, just like Dr. Nupu said earlier, so it is just removing the superficial layer. So we are not going deep inside. We are just removing the superficial dead layer.
One thing, I mean, Charu, even water is a chemical, H2O. So
exactly.
Because the word chemical is there in a chemical peel, then it's harmful. Even those chemicals which are there in a chemical peel, they are like, fruit extracts like glycolic acid, lactic acid. So just because it is a chemical doesn't mean that it is carcinogenic or it is harmful for your body.
And most of the fairness creams and anti-aging creams would anyways have far more of the friendly or unfriendly chemicals.
Even the word organic, whatever you see in organic product, they also have some amount of chemicals in them. So it's just a marketing strategy when people say it's all natural or it's all organic.
Okay. This one is again for Ipsa. It says, these treatments do not have Mediclaim. We cannot claim any medical insurance if these treatments go wrong. Truth or myth?
Right. So this statement is somewhat true. If you can by any chance prove that a particular defect is causing you any sort of medical dysfunction or a health problem, then there are some policies which cover it. See, for example, if you want to have an eyelid lift. So if that is hampering your vision, then there are some policies which will cover it. And of course, then there is this whole funda of OPD basis and admissions. So there are then procedures which are done on an OPD basis have a less chance of getting covered by Mediclaim. Procedures which have an admission, which are longer enough to actually need an admission might get covered. But on an average, cosmetic procedures are not covered by Mediclaim.
Okay, okay.
So, Dr. Nupur, is cosmetic surgeries only for women?
Not at all. More and more men are coming these days for a lot of cosmetic procedures, whether it's Botox, it's fillers, laser hair reduction, laser resurfacing. More and more men are. I think it's awareness. It's a lot to do with the social media, and men are getting more and more conscious.
But the market is still a little this thing, because what I read was women are almost 80% to 90%, and men are only 3 to 10% as of now. And of course, it's increasing rapidly.
I think these
towards like men are also, the number of men is also increasing.
We are getting aware of things.
Aware of
we like to, we are happy to share our burden, we are happy that only we are not feeling the peer pressure, the men are also doing it. So we are happy in that aspect for sure.
So, Dr. Ankit, is plastic surgery or is same as cosmetic surgery?
As Dr. Ipsa said in the beginning, plastic surgery is a wider branch. And as you said, that plastic surgery means molding. It comes from the word plasticos.
Yeah.
So, plastic surgery has a reconstructive branch, a birth defect branch. The people have children who are born with birth defects. Then we have burns. Then we have cosmetic surgery. So cosmetic surgery, in plastic surgery, we correct functional things, we correct non-functional things. So cosmetic surgery is mostly for looks, improving the aesthetic outcome. But other than that, plastic surgery has other roles also.
And no scar marks after the surgery, Dr. Nupur?
That's absolutely a myth. It's not possible that you go for a surgery and you don't have a scar, but definitely with the advancement in techniques and technology, the whole idea is to give you the best possible scar, like make it the least conspicuous, give it in an area where it is very hidden and it doesn't hamper your looks.
So for example, I'll add on that. If you do abdominoplasty, so we are, tightening the skin of the abdomen. So we will give the scar which is so low that when you wear normal clothes or even a bikini, it is not visible.
Okay, maybe like in folds or somewhere. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. So for all the doctors, what is your take on natural beauty or cosmetic beauty? This is open to all, and I would want like 3 of you to answer this.
Okay, should I go first?
Yeah.
I'll start. So me, definitely natural beauty first. No doubts about it. I would not, being a cosmetic surgeon, I would not want to say that cosmetic beauty. But if you have some deformity, if there is something bothering you, if there is something you feel is not right, then cosmetic surgery is the answer. You should get it done. But unnecessary procedures, unrealistic expectations should not be there. And as doctors, we should be, telling people what they should expect out of one particular surgery and how much correction they can get. We should be, just open to everything.
But many people have a good reason for cosmetic surgeries. They want to they actually think about it for their good health and have good for their self-esteem. But what if people, they just want to impress their spouses? For that matter, what do you how do you actually counsel them?
If the spouse is not impressed, then probably she shouldn't have been your spouse.
I completely agree. If the spouse, if a girl comes to me and says that my husband will start loving me more if I have better lips or if I have a better looking jawline or a nose, I would say that you get all of these procedures done. Even then, he's not going to love you.
So the point is, you should do something to increase your confidence, not someone else's approval. It should be your confidence which should be boosted by these surgeries, and you should feel good about it.
I'll just add one more thing. You know how when we make a house, we do all, paint, we put wallpapers, we try to, and also of course we need to do timely maintenance. So similarly, cosmetic procedures are not always just just to make others feel better, or it's also about maintenance. It's also about making you as the word goes, aging gracefully. So you don't have to look saggy in your 40s. You don't have to look like you're in your 60s when you're just 35 or 40. So if you can make yourself look better and feel better, then why not?
So, but I've I read about it. So it's mostly the procedures and the these things are in the for the age group of 44 to 55. Like it's majorly, is it?
I think it's like nowadays it's between 35 to 65. Like that range has increased. Okay. Because the earlier you start, the lesser work you would require at a later age. It's like, how if, your car has a problem, but you keep ignoring it for a long time, then you have to do some major work will be required. So similarly, when you start doing little from an earlier age, then no major overhaul will be required eventually.
And definitely a healthy lifestyle. That's also very important.
Most important.
And Dr. Ipsa, what's your take on the natural beauty versus cosmetic?
Right. So I completely agree with Dr. Nupur. Even in our clinic, when we promote certain offers, we always keep this thing, like you service your car in the similar way you need to service your skin also. So, say before 10 years, it was, most of the people did not even know who a dermatologist was, or maybe they went to a dermatologist just for some problem or some issue. But now most of the people, most of my friends also have a dermatologist, like they go to a dermatologist just for normal maintenance of healthy skin. So I think, I believe that, you start in your 20s, maybe you start with the basic skin routine, like say applying a sunscreen and, applying a moisturizer. And then, so that, the earlier you start, the lesser number of treatments will be required. So that is my take on the thing.
We have a long list of viewers' questions as well. So Charu would start with the viewers' question.
Yes. The first question is by Ms. Suchitra Shekhar. She says cosmetic procedures like Botox and fillers make one look artificial or with frozen appearance. Is that true? This is for Dr. Ipsa.
Okay, so see, this depends totally on who is injecting, first of all. I always tend to under-inject Botox. What I do is, if say the person requires 20 units, I will give him or her say 12 to 14 units, and then call him say after 3 or 4 days, because the result of Botox is seen after 3 days. If the patient requires, or if I feel that the patient requires, then I will give additional units. So that totally depends on who the injector is. Also, there is this thing which is baby Botox, which is a new trend. So in that, they usually tend to dilute the Botox and give it so that it gives a very natural and subtle appearance. So if someone is very, apprehensive about Botox, getting the Botox for the first time, you can also opt for this and see how the results are.
Okay. So Dr. Nupur, can you answer this?
I'm sorry, Shiny, just one moment, please. But Ipsa, Dr. Ipsa, but the fact remains that it does give you a frozen look.
No, if you are under injecting, it will never give you a frozen look. It will just correct the lines, and whenever you want to make expressions, you will be able to make expressions.
See, overdoing a procedure would result in an artificial look, but if it is done correctly, then you'll have natural look.
Okay. So Miss Geeta Khanna is asking, can under-eye puffiness get corrected with the procedure, Dr. Nupur?
Under-eye puffiness is actually one of the difficult areas. It depends on the cause for the puffiness. We can deal with it with the help of certain treatments like HIFU and radiofrequency. But if it is too much, then surgical treatment is the best option, in which they just remove the fat which is there under the eyelid and give a small stitch.
So then again, the blepharoplasty, which we talked about earlier, that is the procedure which will be done for.
Will that leave a mark or anything because you are removing the whole fat?
So that is, the scar would come very close to your eyelashes, so it would not be visible.
Okay. Okay.
The next one is from Ms. Komal Vadhva. Her question is, does liposuction make you lose permanently the weight?
No. Liposuction basically removes the fat from the superficial layer. So once, if you, that's as I said before, if you're not motivated, if you're not exercising, if your diet is not good, then you'll gain back that the whole thing that has been removed. So it's not a permanent thing.
Okay, but temporarily it will lead to
yes,
weight loss.
It is, yes.
Ms. Megha is asking about the PRP. So how beneficial, how we can be benefited with PRP? Dr. Ipsa?
Right. So PRP is basically the full form is platelet-rich plasma. So in this treatment, it is one of the most natural treatments that you can do. We are extracting cells from your own body and then kind of processing it in a way and then injecting into your skin. So PRP can be done in many indications. Like for example, if you inject it on the scalp, there will be hair growth. If you inject it, say even in diabetic ulcers, if you inject it, there will be new formation of new skin. For the face, it is used for general rejuvenation of the face, and it is known as vampire facial. So basically, wherever you inject it, the cells of that place will kind of multiply. So that will give you a better look.
So, and she's same person asking, is it right to begin with anti-aging filler, like for at the age of 35? Is it the right age to get the fillers done?
So fillers are absolutely safe, even for 20-25-year-old. If you have like a very deep tear trough and it makes you look tired all the time, we can do fillers for them also. So 35 is an absolutely fine age to start with fillers. But I mean, definitely depending upon the requirement, we inject little quantity. At 35, you won't require a huge quantity. As you start getting older, then you start requiring more quantity.
More quantity. Okay.
Okay, this one is for Dr. Ankit. It is by Mr. Rakesh Sharma. His query is, I got a nose job done 3 years before, and since then I cannot sleep in the night without using nasal drops, as I will not be able to breathe. Otherwise, is this common for all who get their nose job done?
No, I would suggest that he should get it investigated. There might be some deviation in the nasal septum, which might need correction. So he'll have to meet a doctor, because it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen.
Okay. So Miss Uma Shankar is asking, can bigger moles on the face be removed without surgery? How safe are they? Dr. Ipsa, can you answer this?
Right. So there is a treatment which is known as radio frequency. If you do not want to opt for a surgery, but most of the moles, what happens is they have a part of the mole which is inside the skin, which we cannot see. So if you get it removed by radio frequency, what happens is it removes the mole from the surface. But sometimes the part that is beneath the skin will multiply itself and then again come on the surface. Okay. So then again it has to be removed. So when a patient like this comes to me, I give them two options. If they want to go for a surgery, then it can be removed in one single go and it will, not leave a mark at all. And if they are a bit apprehensive, then I'll tell them that you can go for one sitting of radio frequency. If it recurs, then it is better to go for the surgery.
Okay, all right.
Okay, the next question is by Ms. Niyati Sharma. She is asking, what should the client keep in mind before selecting a cosmetic clinic, since there are so many who claim to be offering the latest technology? Dr. Nupur, would you like to take that?
Definitely, first and foremost is that you must see that either a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon is heading the clinic, because many of the cosmetic clinics, they don't even have a qualified doctor who is taking care of the patients. So the first thing is a qualification of the person who is going to be taking care of you. That is something that you need to see. Secondly, the technologies that they are using, a lot of these chain of clinics, they have Chinese machines which don't, you set some power, but it gives some other power. So that leads to a lot of burns. So the technology and the machines that are being used. Then of course you can take reviews from other patients who have been there, how their results have been. So and when you meet the doctor, your level of comfort, your level of confidence, because ultimately the result will also depend on how confident you are with the doctor.
And the trust you have on
the trust, exactly.
There's Dr. Ipsa, Miss Bindu Jain is asking, there are so many products today for anti-aging and for good detan, walnut creams and home remedies, if used religiously, give me the same results as these cosmetic treatments?
I'm not against using these products, of course, but the major role of these products will be in prevention. So whatever wrinkles, whatever fine lines have been already formed, there are very few, very rare products which can actually correct them. Also, a major thing that happens in the aging process is that the collagen in the skin keeps on reducing. It keeps on reducing every year, right? So the collagen is there in the deeper layer of the skin. So most of the products cannot penetrate deeper. Okay. So whereas lasers or PRP or something which we can give a targeted therapy, they are much better. And in the long run, if you see, I'm not against using anti-aging products, they should be used. But in the long run, if people who are using, say a lot of anti-aging products, the cost in the long run will almost be equal to, getting, say, a laser facial done every 1.5 to 2 months. So, I think the treatments also should not be ignored.
Okay. Dr. Nubar, there's a question for you. This is by Miss Hiren Ketan. She writes, I got plastic surgery done on my hands to cover burn marks. It looks like a scar even now. And I'm using concealer to cover the scar. Is there a remedy?
So, first of all, I would obviously have to examine whether it's a scar or it's a post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or a hypopigmentation. So, depending upon that, if it's a small scar, then there are certain, lasers or microneedling treatments that can be done to improve the appearance. If there are just marks which are left from the previous surgery or from the previous burn, then there are lasers like Q-switch pigmentary lasers that can be done for that. But I never promise that 100%, it will go away or it will look like a normal skin. That would never happen. What we do promise is at least, 50 to 60% improvement. It may even be more than that.
Okay. And at this point, viewers, you will find the links, the phone number, the email address of the 3 doctors in the comment box, and please feel free to get in touch with them.
And Miss Rekha Bhardwaj is asking from Miss Nupur, are there any permanent treatment for tear lines?
For tear lines?
Yeah.
Okay. So permanent treatment, yes, we do have. We can do fat grafting. We can do fillers. Fillers, although last for 1.5 years, you might need to redo the procedure or do a touch up after that. But fat grafting is something which lasts much longer than the filler.
I have a question. What's a tear line?
The depression that you see in a lot of people under the eyes, which makes them look tired or which makes their dark circles even more prominent, that is called a tear line or a tear trough.
Okay.
Dr. Ipsa, there's the same question from the same person. Asking, what are photofacials?
So photofacials are basically facials that are done with the help of laser machines. So there are 2 types of machines. There is laser and there is IPL. So both of them, you can do a facial with either of them. So what a laser facial will do, or what a photofacial does is, there is a pigment which is known as melanin, which is actually present in our skin, which makes the skin a bit darker. So with each session of the facial, the laser will break down the melanin into smaller particles. So that will result into lighter skin. There are some machines which also kind of help in stimulating collagen and also help in preventing or delaying the onset of wrinkles. So I usually suggest to my patients to get photofacials done, say, after the age of 30. And use it as a maintenance treatment, right? So maybe every 2 or 3 months, you can get a photofacial done.
So what is the difference between these kind of facials and the regular facials that people get done in the saloons? Like, you know, the
Right. Yeah.
gold facial and silver facial and blah, blah. Where do those stand?
So that's what I make this very clear to my patient, that when they come with a perception of a facial, they usually feel that it's going to be very relaxing and very, you know, nice, but that's not the case. What happens? So there's no massage or anything involved in these kind of facials. So what we do is, each clinic has a different procedure for the facial, right? So what we do is, firstly, we do a little bit of microderma abrasion just to remove the dead skin. Then we do the actual laser procedure, and then we apply a mask just to cool down, because laser is a kind of heat energy. So we apply a mask. So this is what the procedure of the photofacial is. Whereas in the parlor facials, I think it is, the number of times that I've got it done, I think it is more for just your, you know, your feel good factor and relaxation.
So it just relaxes you, but doesn't do much for your skin.
Maybe say it looks good for a day or two, but photofacials have a longer effect. You know, if you get them done many times, it does have a very prolonged effect.
And how much does a facial like that cost?
That totally depends on where the clinic is, which city it is, how experienced the doctor is. So
what would be the minimum? Let's begin there.
In Ahmedabad, it starts from 1,500.
Okay. And in Gurgaon?
I think it starts from 3,000-4,000, yeah.
So guys, please book a ticket and go to Ahmedabad. Stay there for 2 months, get 10 done for the same price, and then come back to Gurgaon and glow. So I'm just kidding on that. But we have another question by Miss Uma Shankar, and she says, can under-eye puffiness be corrected with a procedure?
I think this has already been answered. Yeah,
okay.
This has already been answered. There's a question from Niyat Pandey. I think you missed it. What should be the precautions to buy anti-aging or reduce pigment creams and or lotions? Nupur, can you answer this?
Yeah, so always, whatever products you're using on your skin, get it prescribed by a dermatologist first, get it checked, because many of these creams, they contain steroids. Or if you just go to a chemist and ask him, ki, you know, meko skin lightening cream de do ya whatever, he'll just give steroids to you, which cause a lot of harm to the skin. They lead to a lot of permanent side effects like thinning of the skin, acne eruptions, a lot of sensitivity of the skin, fungal infections. So the most important thing is that you must get your skin checked, and then only whatever your doctor prescribes, use that. Secondly, if you're really looking for a difference in some skin problem, then don't go for the cosmetic brands, because the concentration of the required ingredients cannot be high enough in the cosmetic brands, because it's not allowed by the government. So to be able to cause a major difference, you have to use the medical creams.
Okay, there's one last question, and this is from Anonymous, and she says, if I've got a breast job done, later on after my pregnancy, will I face issues of breastfeeding?
No, it depends again for how long the breast implant has been there. Usually, not, all these breast implants are mostly, neutral for the body. Doesn't cause a lot of defect. So, if you want to get pregnant later on, then probably the implant has to be removed. Again, depending on the volume of the implant that has been put, and you can have normal lactation. No problem.
Okay, but you might have to remove it. So you need to, maybe you should wait till you have a baby.
Because, once you undergo the pregnancy process and then the lactating process, there's a lot of engorgement of the breast. So you might have to remove the implant. But other than that, there will be no problem as such.
Sorry, viewers, we can't take more questions. We are running short of time. So we would want to conclude now, like every woman is beautiful, yet she longs for little more beauty. Especially when it comes to aging, we tend to lose our battle. And personally, I feel there's no harm in getting these surgeries and procedures done. But it's each is to own. If it makes you feel confident and it makes you feel important. So please, why not? And if you can carry these lines confidently, then why not again? So please don't be shy. If you really want to get these procedures done, go ahead and get those done. And be confident. We are no one to judge here. As Ketchup Moms, we brought you this program to know more about it, all in black and white. The choice is totally yours.
And with this note, we would like to thank the panelists. Thank you for being so sporty and taking all our questions. Like we discussed with you, that we would be bursting some myths and, of course, bringing out the truth. And as Shiny said, we are nobody to judge. If you can flaunt your lines beautifully and you think they just showcase your experience of life, why not? And if you want to look as beautiful as you can, then why not again? And don't forget to join us next Saturday for the next episode. And this is something that all parents would definitely like to watch. They should watch. It is how to keep kids safe online. And we are not only talking about online bullying. We are talking about a lot more. We are talking about that simple game that you can download and which can give an access to a stalker sitting miles away into your house. They can literally see everything through that one game. So there are going to be many more things about it, the dangers lurking, the tips on what all we can do to protect, the softwares we can download. And so don't forget, next week, 5 p.m. on 26th September, join us for this session. Till then, signing out, Shiny Sachdev and Charu Chitwal for Ketchup Moms.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.